Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Madam, good afternoon, madam.
Yeah, I'm audible, no? You are able to hear me?
Yeah, madam, you're audible.
Yeah. So in the last lesson, we learned about mass media and society. Yeah.
Yep.
So today we'll be learning about new media and society.
Yeah, we learned about role of books in media literacy.
Yeah.
In that.
Okay. Yeah, last lesson, no?
Yes. So we are done with 7. So
yeah, even eighth chapter also we have started, and we were somewhere here. Social responsibility of media is what we were supposed to talk about. We started the topic and discussed about the media impact on the society. Yeah, and the general efforts and what are the safeguard to be discussed. We have discussed about that one, and also discussed about the critical analysis of the role of media in the society. Yeah, this is almost the repetitive thing. So we will just start with the important part of the media, that is called as the social responsibility. Yeah. Yeah. Shall we start?
Yeah, madam, please start.
Yeah. So, what exactly you have an understanding of the social responsibility of a media? Yeah. If you go back, just for a reference, social responsibility of a media is one of the theory as part of the normative theories of the press, isn't it? So, in that manner, we see that, the media, when we say that it has certain roles, defined roles in the society, likewise, we understand that media also has, a special role when it is trying to be part of society. Because media, as we understand, is a platform where it is talking about the public communication, talking about the public sphere, talking about the political democracies and all those things. So there is definitely a certain role that the media has to play. So mass media, as we understand, has a different forms and definitely had a different impact in the present era and the society. They have been primarily a provider of an information entertainment to the people across the countries. Yeah, we have seen that, the press or the print media has been the leader over a considerable period of time. And now we see that, television is also reshaping many of the social responses, and radio has been providing news and views and developed a flair of entertainment, and it's been accepted among the society at large. Yeah. So now with the latest developments in the revolution of technology, we see that, the new media, and especially in terms to the social media and the internet, have been a major platforms for the communication in the society. However, we see that, internet made a possible way of dissemination information in a real time across the globe, isn't it? You might be in India in an interior village, and but if you are being provided with a proper internet connection, you can directly communicate with the person who is in Paris or London or, UK or US or somewhere. So this is called as a real time process of information. All these developments are definitely raising a cause of concern for the society. In this, there remains a question that is media really fulfilling its social responsibility? Is the global mass media that is booming posing a threat to the democratic way of thinking? Or we see that media is posing a challenge to a country like India, where media has a greater role to play rather than merely provide information and entertainment. So these are the concerns that we see. The social responsibilities expected from the media in the public sphere were deeply grounded. If you go back, that why are we talking that media has a social responsibility? You can as well say that social media can only be a provider of information or entertainment. But if you see the history and if you go back, we see that the social responsibility of the media in the public sphere was basically found with the media being accepted as a fourth estate, which was coined by Edmund Burke in England. Yeah. So for any democratic country, there is a question for a media because it is the fourth estate or the fourth pillar of the society. So we see that in 1947, a commission was being formed where it talked about the freedom of the press and the social responsibility of a media. It was formed basically in the rampant commercialization and sensationalization in the American press and the dangerous trend towards the monopolistic practices. So seeing all this background, there was, commission that was been formed in 1947. So if we go back to the Hutchison Commission, basically the commission was called as a Hutchinson Commission, which waved a path to the role of social responsibility and expected the journalist standards on part of the press. So the theory of social responsibility came out of this commission was backed by certain principles and included media ownership in a public trust, and media has certain definitely obligations towards the society, and it should work on the principles that is the fair, being objective, being relevant, and being truthful. Therefore, we see that freedom of the press is also something where there is also a need for the self-regulation, as we have 91 article as part of the constitution that talks about the freedom of the press. So it should adhere to the professional code of conduct, ethics, and government has a role, very vital play to as part of it under circumstances. If we see that the public interest is been hampered. So this is how we see that that the concept of the social responsibility has evolved. Now, when we talk about informing the citizens, media plays an important role because it is the fourth estate, and it plays an important role in the democracy, and it helps the democracy to survive in the two spirits by informing the citizens about the developments in the society so that they can make a well-informed choice. It keeps the elected representatives accountable by highlighting whether they have fulfilled their promises, while they have done the manifestos, and whether they are been adhering to the oath of office. So in order to operate in an ideal democratic framework, media needs total control from the governmental and private bodies. Unfortunately, which is not. So I hope you agree. So it needs to have complete editorial independence to pursue public interest. This, if we go back, we can see during the emergency era that has occurred during 1975 to 1977, where few media houses were definitely on an obligation. They have supported the government, but the other media houses have definitely done one step ahead their role of responsibility by questioning the elected representatives. So that means a media, when it is running into the society, should be decontrolled. But unfortunately, we see that there is so much of influence of the hierarchy of the management and the government these days. So there is also the necessity to create a platform for diverse mediums and credible voices. So what is that makes the media so important in a democracy? Because it creates a necessary platform for the diverse mediums and credible voices for democracy to thrive, isn't it? So it has already, we have been already discussed that, media is something, fourth pillar or the fourth state in the democracy. So it provides the space for alternative ideas to debate and arrive at conclusion for the betterment of the society. So the best example in the present situation you can take about, it could be CAA, it could be about the Manipur, it could be about the political atmosphere that is going around in the Indian society. So the publicly agreed norms are weighed over that of actions on the part of economic organization and political institution. So this is a something close in essence to the concept of public sphere, where rational public debate and discourse is very important, and individuals can freely discuss issues of common concerns. Yeah. So now, for example, if we talk about certain rituals or certain traditions to be followed or not to be followed, so we understand that media plays a crucial role with the realm of the public sphere, and it signifies that public sphere is essential for a vibrant democracy and actually enhance and channelize to serve the interest, vested interest rather than the public good. So, what exactly is the social responsibility? So, one of the foremost communication scholars, called as Dennis McWell, summarized the basic principles in theory of social responsibilities that says that media should accept and fulfill certain obligations to the society. It has an obligation mainly to be met by setting professional standards in terms of information, truth, accuracy, objectivity, and balance. It has just not come that way, but this research scholars and the communication scholars have done a very, you know, in-depth information that how the media plays a has a onus of social responsibility and how they have to maintain. So one is through fulfilling the certain obligation towards the society, that means reporting which is best in the interest of the public society, and maintaining the principles of journalism. So also it has an obligation that it should be self-regulating rather than that working towards the frame of law and established institution. So it is something, as a human being you have to understand, yes, definitely we have certain rules and regulations, but apart from that also we have to follow this one. So media should avoid offensive content triggering crime, violence, or civil disorders, and media should be pluralistic and reflect the diversity of the performances. And at the same time, we see that journalists and media professionals should be accountable to the society and as well as to the employers and to the market. So in a crux, we see that social responsibility is just not in the reporting, but also to maintain a well-established and harmonious relationship with the society, with the employers, with the incidents, with the events, and it should ultimately reflect the issues and cater to the solutions to bring solutions to the problem. Then next we have media and cultural changes. So whether we cannot deny that definitely the change in our life has been because there is an influence of media. We see that now we are adapting the Western style of living, we are adapting to the ritual way of believing everything. Now it has come with a mix of all the traditions. So media acts as a bridge between our past and the present, as we understand, because it shares the information by day to day, reporting the day to day affairs. The best record of modern history of newspaper of it is basically the yesteryear's modern history. Yeah. So we get our cultural tradition from history and follow them best very scrupulously. So we try to in tune with our culture. The media plays a very vital role because we see that it focuses on a genuine aspects of the point that there are trends that go into the market. So how does media enrich our cultural values are in two terms. One is transmitting culture and heritage from generation to generation, and introducing and spreading cultural values across various segments of the society. That is why we say that media plays a very important role in cultural diversity and acceptance, and also in adopting to the new trends. So media has basically a tendency to produce more ideological accounts of two accounts that are related to the public changes, and the media is having a knowledge, and it gives a news related events that works with the very specific and useful manner of jurisdiction of the people, and acts as a forum through securing the admittance to the various category of information of whichever the people they are catering to. So it is not only confined to the four walls of the news, but it is also having different functions, that is entertainment, education, informing, and facilitating cultural transformation from generation to generation. So media also has the important function of facilitating the cultural transmission from generation to generation. So what is culture? Basically, culture is manifested at different levels of depth and culture of particular group. So basically, the levels are observable artifacts, values, basic underlying assumption. So it is inherited. It is not learned, or we are trying to learn, like we are trying to learn digital and all those things. But culture is something which comes from generation to generation. Our parents have been following, so we will follow. This is what the society norm is, that you should be educated, you should be knowledgeable to get a better job, you should be employable, you should do some work. There are certain norms. So culture is something inherited. The source of new cultural element in the society may also be of the other society also. So it can also reflect the other society also. So the cultural elements of one culture borrowed and incorporated in recipient culture are called as diffusion. Because we are getting to accustom the culture of other society, that process in terms of communication is called as diffusion. So now we are trying to follow the Western culture. Yeah, we are trying to follow the practice, adapt to the new trends, that is called as the diffusion. So the process of diffusion and acculturation being some kind of cultural changes or shift in the culture. Sometimes diffusion is due to intermediate contact that occurs through the third party, or the media proved to be influential on the belief that it is in a wider cultural sense. So the media largely reinforces those values and norms which have already achieved a wide foundation, a wide consensual foundation. Yeah, see now, for example, my personal experience, if I share with you, I have seen after the DOST implementation, that is degree online services of Telangana, what we have seen that there is so much of number of students, there are so much of students that are coming from the interior villages where they are adapting to the culture of the city based trends. So that is called as the process of diffusion. So where they are adapting, and okay, if they don't adapt also, they are being influenced by their social media or traditional media or conventional media. So they come to the change and adapt the change. So that way we understand that media is a powerful social system playing an important role in creating a person's sense of reality. So also we see that media dominates culture, which is well understood, that we see that it tries to help us into shape our aspects and cultural ideas. So media messages are rich cultural text. We have some festival or something, then we feel that okay, yes, definitely it is part of the culture. So they are basically rich cultural texts that provide insight into the value of the meanings and the feelings. And also we see that the cultural life, it tries to build the images, it tries to contribute to the stories and the sense of identity. If we see that the study of culture extends from Aristotle to Plato to Kant to Hegel, Marx, and others. All these are the communication and social researchers. So cultural studies have a specific view of in view of media. They definitely have a specific view. Then we have rural urban divide in India and the grassroots media. So this, if you go back somewhere in 2004, we have seen that India was developed as a rural India and urban India. What exactly it means? Because the characteristics of rural India are there, we have severe poverty, illiteracy, lack of health services, lack of employment opportunities, and there's so much of underdevelopment or the backwardness. So this generates a politically and ethically unacceptable disparity of the that is of the issues that is been dominating the rural populations, and thus it prevents them from appropriately participating in the social, economic, and political life of the nation. This is but for natural, because you don't have all those things, so definitely you are not into the mainstream of the development. So what is that can bring a change? So we see that the reach of audio medium is not only limited to the urban but also covers the remote areas. The people living in the rural parts of the country are getting more benefits from the audio medium of the mass communication. However, these being the barriers or obstacles, like poor literacy and all those things, the medium of radio or the audio medium has become a very powerful tool in communicating to them. The programs on radio cater to the interest of rural sections, which constitute small-scale industries, farming, forestries, fisheries, which has helped the rural people in matters related to day-to-day life. And if we take television on the other side, we see that, it has become a, mass medium. It has become turned into a medium of mass communication. So here we have an advantage of visual and audio component, which helps in having a better information, providing of a better information. So news from all parts of the country is investigated and presented through this medium of mass communication. Initially, television in the country was introduced in our country for an education purpose. That was, it was called as ETV, that is educational TV, where the university in New Delhi was taken on a pilot project to educate about the science. Especially, it was used for the students who were studying in the rural villages, where the science teacher projects were being shared through this educational. Through this channel for the education purpose. Later, with the advancement of the time, we see that, the objective of education, people turn into imparting information and entertaining masses. So today we see that television has become an important part of our daily life and covers a vast section of the programs, which include soaps, soap operas, news, movies, realities, to list a few. So we see that, the central goal of uncovering the gaps in the characteristics of the workforce between rural and urban areas has been more. So we have to see that, we should be determined that, we fill these gaps, and the media has been putting efforts to fill the gaps for the last 25 years. Basically, there are 4 indicators of primary interest. First is education attainment levels of the workforce, the occupation distribution, the wage levels, and the consumption levels. So when the workforce, that is the employment or the employees of the media, we see that, they have been working, and there are certain indicators where we need to protect the workforce and motivate the workforce so that they perform their duty in a right manner. Now, grassroots communication. So, grassroots communication is very important in reference to the rural population, as we need to have a different development approaches, because they are the part of the people where the development is most important, and then we can attain an holistic development. So, in rural areas, there are very formal communication channels through which the change engines work for the people. Apart from the formal channels, there are certain informal channels of communication through which the rural people get information. The rural people cannot stick on to the TV to know the information. So there are informal channels and as well as the formal channels. So the government is running so many programs and campaigns in rural areas, and the medium of these campaigns are formal channels of communication. So communication in the primitive societies not only fulfills the social need, but also fulfills the psychological and survival needs of the society. So when, for example, if we take, Telangana government, so there are certain schemes and everything. So how do the government reach to the public? Through the medium of through the channels of communication. So that way we see that, that there are formal channels, but still there are some people who may not be aware. So there are also, non-formal, informal channels also, where they are trying to create and build the knowledge-based society at the grassroots level. The formal means of communications are considered to be legitimate mode of communication, and because they have been transmitting the messages. The formal channels are very important, then only the informal channels would be abreasted with our required information so that they can help the rural people. So the role of radio and television, we just mentioned that, how it plays an important role, because the rise of other media technologies, we can as well see that, there can be a possibility of influence of the radio and television. But when a study has revealed that, the radio medium has been more effective for the rural population, and television is also something where it is seeing and believing. So it is helping in understanding, understanding the rural population and plays an important role in the development. But for the urban, it remains a question whether it is really playing an important role or not, because we have various channels of getting the information. So ICT is information and communication technologies, which helps in catering the information. But they have in the recent past we have seen that there were many infrastructural constraints. It has helped to overcome the challenges to communication, and it has built the infrastructure wherein they can communicate, and that is the reason why we see that that a person can be poor, but he is rich with the digital information and digital connectivity, thanks to the digital technology. So that way they are empowered with the information. So thus it is talking about the media and the society. Next is new media and society. Yeah. So this lesson basically deals with the concept of multimedia, digitalization, and convergence. Yeah, very important in the present era. Then it also, this chapter describes the interactivity in virtual world. It explains the new media consumption. It is talking about the cultures of the internet and also discussing the effects of new media on the society. So what exactly you mean by new media and society? So new media and society introduces the history, use of the new technologies, and examines the basic issues posed by interactive media in terms of that affect in terms of areas such as intellectual, organization, and social life. So advanced technology have definitely created immense impact and also has a communication revolution, though it be an individual or though it be a group participation. So new media is basically an umbrella which includes different technologies. Some of the specialists describe new media that includes blogs, podcasts, video games, virtual games, wiki, encyclopedia, and other mobile devices, and interactive televisions, and even the websites and the emails. So basically, some of the specialists gave definition for a new media is something which includes blogs, podcasts, video games, websites, interactive television, mobile devices. Others consider the blogs and virtual media must be included in the category of social media because they are encouraging appearance of virtual communities and social networks. So there is another thought also that, when we are talking about the blogs and virtual media, it has to come into the virtual communities and social networking. So whatever the differences be, some researchers found and identified common characteristics for the majority of the definitions. First thing is that they are the source to spread to pass on the information in a customized way to a number of receivers. So how digital media is totally different from the conventional media is that it is giving a customized way of information to the receivers. Yeah, depending on specification for endorsed categories, tenure of unequal control over the information in terms of transmission and also in receiving. Other definitions are even different and vague, like the media are respected by all the text, sound, images, and graphic forms transferred by the computers. So in so much of talk between the media and technologies, we have to understand that, what is that it is catering to so much of communication over the digital platform. So there is a concept of multimedia that has to be understood. So multimedia is a good way to communicate as it facilitates an easy understanding. Basically, multimedia is an advanced technology facilitating integration of text, data, image, graphics, audio, and video animation in digital form. And at the same time, it is providing an enhanced way to the delivery of information and leaving an impact on the user. So we can say that multimedia is a culmination of text, graphics, audio, and video. So we see that the technology is very much developed in a shape by with many social factors. First thing is co-evolution of multimedia technology, and the society needs informed research framework that focuses attention on the key issues like social issues, psychological issues, political and economic influences on technology, and its uses and it has different uses and as well as it is used on the emergence of stable infrastructure, standards, and development paths. So multimedia is something where it is just not only collecting and integrating the facts, but it also has social factors that have been shaped in because of the usage on the digital media through the process of multimedia, where it is trying to about stable infrastructures and talking about the standards and development paths also. So the concept of multimedia is explained by Sartori, that that multimedia is something, a union in a single media, which can be in terms of written and spoken word, of the sound and the image. The new sovereign is from now onwards, that is called as a computer. So through multimedia can be used only through the computer. The personal computer is not only unifying the world, the sound, the image, but also introduces the visible simulated realities, virtual realities. Now the latest trend is that you have a virtual reality also. The education has been reimagined. For example, if you have a science experiment or something, you have virtual simulations and virtual reality. This virtual simulation basically started from the what do you call this, aeroplane air hostess pilots training, where they have to get trained to understand that how air hostess or the pilots have to work in the aeroplane. Later on, this same technology has been used to understand the virtual similarities have been understood to know some experiments which are threatful to the human beings while understanding the observations. So that way we see that there is a growth in the technology that has helped and now turn into a virtual reality, understanding the virtual realities. Second is societal participation. So multimedia is being a tool that is empowering the digital world, and it is being used with the real world research, and it is important for we see that it is part of the technological advancement, because it is trying to have an impact on our daily lives. It could be good, bad, worst, whatever it is. So the role of multimedia for our society has moved from engaging digital images or videos or audio files or something, but it has also now emerged to help the individual to address these societal challenges. So multimedia shapes the future interactive system in which the real world and the digital world become, and they are totally inseparable. So that way we see that multimedia plays an important role in the societal participation. And the other thing is that new media is basically a broad term that has emerged in the later part of the 20th century. So what it is of new media, as we have earlier also discussed, that it is an amalgamation of traditional media such as films, images, music, spoken, written words or something. Now, for example, you have films, you have an e-version, that is you have an platform on seeing on your YouTube or something. So that is what called as a new media. And you have e-papers, you have music, where through the help of the apps and all those things, you are able to listen. So that is called as a new media. So a new media is something which has an interactive power of computer and also has a convergence. So this is basically a convergence technology that has helped the traditional and conventional media to come with the help of the internet media. So new media holds out a possibility of non-demand access to the content. So because it is accessible everywhere, it has always a demand to there is a possibility of accessing the content anytime. In the midnight too, if you get up, if you feel something, you're not having, if you have a sleep apnea or something, you try to watch something, because the new media has created a demand to access that kind of a content on your digital device. So the potential of digital convergence through media technologies has been an object of widespread attention over a decade and has been specially focused on convergence of broadcast television and the network computer, where it is helping to merge the TV and the computer. Yeah. So now we have, what do you say, NDTV Live and all those things are part of the new media convergence only. So we see that one of the objectives is to identify the characteristics. So what are those characteristics? So the characteristics that it is a two-way communication. Yeah. Then we see that, it has an easiness of access and to the dissemination of information. And we have a continuous learning, alignment and integration, and community based. It all depends upon the users. So that way we see that the new media has a really very good impact and has generated massive social changes in the behavior and lifestyles patterns of the consumer. So new media have shaped modern culture by affecting the people that we try to think and communicate and learn and conceive our ideas from the digital world. Now, Let us understand what is digitalization and convergence. So in this today's world, we see that digital artifacts and online practices penetrate major portion of our everyday, let it be in terms of organization, social or economic activities. The scope of transformation of the power in the emerging era in terms of connectivity, platforms, algorithm power, big data is more than the other vigorous than other the disruptive technologies in the history. So there is so much of power of the digitalization. So digital coding, or in for example, we can say it as a computer science or binary coding. What is coding? This is binary coding that has got a new term called as the coding system or the digitalized coding. Everything is been coded. What is the language that is being used? That is a binary language that is being used. So computer represents any form of data through binary codes and does not understand any other language in order to make the computer understand the language. So in case of such bytes indicates the amount of data that has to be worked. A digital charge coupled device, camera captures video form in digital with the help of a capture card. The data analog is captured in the computer digitally and edited digitally. So there is a digital language that is being used, and that is through binary system. So digitization has helped most in convergence of new media. Now we see there is a Python and all those languages coming into existence. So that is why there is so much of easy way of communication. So digitalization and growth of social media have challenged the industry, resulting in adjustment of media production and giving a rise to the power of users of social media platforms and independent publishers. That is why we see that there are so many enormous number of YouTube channels that come and talk about the issues. The process of at least that is giving a freedom of speech. That is another point. But anyhow, we see that it has given a scope for the people to talk independently. The process of multimedia production is described through various types of inclusion into the technological formats. And the highlights that transform could be intimacy based of media cultures, which presents evidence of new, unstable, and some respect blurring division between public and private spheres of communication. So as it is a digital media, everybody has a right of freedom to speech and expression. So there is something where there are certain concerns to be raised. So what are the positive and negative consequences of digitalization? Several positive and negative consequences on media landscape are being discussed. There are problems concerning related to the transparency, accountability, and professionalism of media production. So as a media literacy, or as part of the media literacy, we have these issues that have to be talked about. If you are part of the media, you need to be transparent in your writing, you need to be accountable in your information you share, and you have to maintain the professional standards, which are of a major concern. So digital media enabled the speeding up of process of media production, where the journalists are taking multitask and trying to meet the sharper deadlines. So social networks such as Facebook, Twitter are becoming new platform for spreading information and news among users. So social media has become a powerful tool for publishers and journalists, as it enables them to augment or keep their audiences intact. So social networks are usually used to accomplish interpersonal rather than the professional goals. So definitely they are trying to catch up, but they are not able to accomplish a professional goal, but rather than trying to fulfill the interpersonal goal. There is also a risk of a misperception of communication. The acts performed by the journalists through the social networks. Interaction through the social network is usually more personal, interactive, collaborative. So these characteristics are quite different from the normative ideals at which have been attributed to quality journalism. So that remains a big question. Digitalization of content. Here we see that with the help of the technology and digital community has given a major scope for the convergence. So in the digital world, the content can be transmitted across different networks, different services, and can be offered on the same content. The synergy achieved goes beyond the electronic communication forms and include even the other printing press also. That is why we see e-papers and all those things. So digitalizing of information has become an important factor across all the industries and makes it quite easier to preserve, share, as well as access the information. For example, if you go to the original historical file may be used or accessed by the people who pay a visit to the physical location. But in the case if the document is digitized, then it can be accessed by several people across the world in no time. So this is how the digitalization helps in accessing the content. So now coming to the interactive in the virtual world. So when we are saying digital world, so definitely it is an interactive world. So interactive media is a method of communication in which the output largely depends on the inputs by the user. So which in turn affects the program outputs. So it refers basically to the different ways in people, how the people process and share information and how they communicate with each other. So that's we can understand that interactive media always allow the people to connect with other people or organizations, making them active participants in the media they consume. So it is something where you have an interaction. However, we see that media can also refer to the different ways in which people process and share the information. It is meant for engaging of users in a non-interactive media. And television and radio are the most common examples of non-interactive media. So examples of interactive media include the social media, virtual reality, and apps. It is through the internet revolution that we see that and the improved technology of smartphones, it is giving a scope for the interactive media. So the use of interactive media are far and wide, and from educating to networking to the video games. So the nature of media content offers content creators and advertisers who engage new ways of interaction with the audience participation. Social networking can be used to build content-centric communities that enhance the experience and give participants a greater feeling of engagement. So content creators have used new media to encourage in collaborative content creation and storytelling activities. Now we see that, the best example is gaming is a big on the internet. It is a storytelling in a different way where each player experiences the story differently. While some interactive TV, that is ITV, is available through set-top box. Usage depends upon the availability and it is limited. So internet offers many opportunity to every audiences. So virtual communities, what are virtual communities? So these are basically the subgroups in the cyberspace and envisaged as a global village. Marshall McLuhan has termed the world as a global village, where we see that virtual communities are part of the subgroups. So before the advent of the web, virtual communities existed on bulletin board services. Some virtual communities or facilities have used the metaphor of a coffee house or something similar to help user visualize the community. So in general, there are two kinds of communication among virtual community. One is message posting and the real-time chat. So virtual worlds are very noteworthy in the new media phenomena. In this world, the users are presented by avatars. So that avatar movie is also the virtual reality kind of a movie. So avatars are graphical representation customized for the user to reflect his or her real world experience. With the help of the virtual worlds, the avatars come under the control of their owners, interact with each other and with their virtual surroundings. So the virtual world is something, enhancement of the technologies. So we see that, such virtual worlds that exist best known are Second Life Hobo, which was called as a Habbo Hotel, and Club Penguin. So Club Penguin is basically a Canadian success story out of Kelowna, BC, and now owned by Disney. Is specifically targeted for children, while Habbo is aimed at the teens and Second Life's term of service limit to those the age of 18. And Second Life is, for example, has its own economy based on currency called Linden dollars, and virtual goods and real estates are bought and sold. So because of this virtual reality, they are the people who have set up the virtual communities. So the presentation might change according to this world. Club Penguin has a graphic like cartoons that are three-dimensional and all those things. So the movies like Disney on Disney World, like related to the cartoons and all those things, they are three-dimensional. And the Second Life approach is a photorealistic level. And and the environment mature and technology improves, there little doubt that it is giving a scope for a real time experience. And anyhow we see that environment and technology keeps on improving. So perhaps we can speculate that someday we will see such multi-layer simulation approach through the visual realism of Star Trek fictional holodeck. So Star Trek fictional holodeck is one of kind of an opera that we see, which has a virtual reality. Now let us understand, as part of the media literacy, why how is the new media consumption. So as we understand, new media is something which is the convergence of the digital media. So media consumption, and it has been seen that it has more access and easy access and anytime accesses. So one research has shown that individuals with lower self-esteem and have an easier time expressing themselves on social media. Yeah, many people use metrics such as how many people are following them and likes to measure their acceptance or rejections of their ideas. One study in a journal of experimental social psychology argues that individuals feel accepted and part of in crowd and have a higher sense of self-esteem. So this is all how the social media is booming, and because it is giving certain platforms of boosting yourself, talking if you have any inhibition, so you are free to talk about it. So media consumption affects the public's perception of the justice system through the relationship of fear in terms of crime or perceived effectiveness of law enforcement. The law and legal system have continually portrayed mass media through negative portrayals of criminal deviance and law. Our research showed that the effect of media consumption does influence public attitudes regarding crime and justice. So media consumption is also at a time needed, as it will help in understanding the issues in the right perspective. And we also see that, it has been doing good and as well as bad in the society. Then let us understand the cultures of the internet. So what are the cultures that we see on the internet? What exactly do you mean by culture? So culture is a set of values and beliefs where it is being used for informing behavior. So it could be a repetitive patterns of a behavior that is being generated and enforced by the institution, and as well as an informal organization. So there is an internet culture that has been characterized by 4 layers. The first one is the techno-meritocratic culture, the hacker culture, the virtual communitarian culture, and the entrepreneurial culture. So these are the 4 different characteristics that we see on the internet. It basically highlights the direct link between the cultural expression and the technological development of the internet. It explains the open source software is the key technological feature in development of internet and the openness. So these are the different cultures. So culture of the internet and attitudes towards the technology. So these groups that are existing are being reinforced by the relationship with the general attitudes towards the technology. The immersive have more positive attitudes towards technology, such as believing in technology that makes things better and not finding that technologies fail. Yeah, the techno-pragmatists have a similar positive attitude toward technology, unlike the cyber moderate. So who have fear that the internet threatens their privacy and concentration. Yeah, finding the internet of a value is more in most respects. The cyber savvy are more concerned than all other cultures about threat to privacy, and also they harbor a general lack of trust in the technology. So these we see that there's different approaches depending upon the media consumption or the information you have related to the technologies. Then the stability of internet cultures. So while these attitudes and beliefs are part of the systematic ways of accessing the media information, there are other things that relate to the general attitudes and beliefs about the technology. Some are considered as a quite erratic, constant changing. On the contrary, there has been remarkable stability in attitudes and beliefs over the internet. While there is no evidence or any panel survey going back to the same people every 2 years, the proportion of the public to hold particular belief is that internet has been more of instrumental in understanding the information and the media mass media and information consumption, and it has been more relatively stable. Though there has been some change, there is a drop in the proportion of users who believe there is too much immoral material online. But the overall stability of attitudes and belief was one factor that led to attitudes and belief as an internet indicators of the internet culture. So definitely there are 80% of drawbacks, but 20% has proved that there is a stability of following the media consumption, news consumption. The characteristics. So, what are the characteristics of internet cultures? There are some tendencies that define the different cultures that are associated with social and demographic characteristics. For example, a conventionally accepted view is that students and younger people grow up in the internet world, and so they are called as digital natives. So, a description that comes close in the group of immersive. So, because we all already have grown up, we are immersives, but the children who are coming with this digital product, they are called as digital natives. While students are more likely to be part of immersive culture, a larger portion of students are cyber moderates. Pragmatists are more likely to be from 25 to more group, most employed and from managerial and professional occupations. The moderates tend to be from all walks of life and more prominent among those online who are older and retired. So these are typically, we see that, these are the characteristics of the people who belong to the different cultures, so who use the internet. Now, do we feel any effects or impact of new media on the society? So let us understand that one. The increased use of new media is changing everybody's life of people, and whether directly or indirectly they have an impact. They connect and collaborate in the broader social societal context at work and in the society, civil society. Much of the impact of this heightened use is beneficial to both individuals and the society, as it is enabling unprecedented levels of communication, social interaction, community building across boundaries of time, place, and social context, which cannot be denied. It is also enabling individuals and speeding up the democratization of knowledge. The world has picked up the pace. Everyone is just too busy because we are in a competitive world, and we cannot simply afford a day or anything. And if we are not updated with information, then we are lagging behind. So the world, as we know, is something that some kind of change is definitely happening every fraction of the second. There is also something happening. So the electronic devices which we are connected with the help of the internet constantly supply the information. So all the applications and multimedia stored in the devices help us to keep us engaged about the updates. So what are the positive and negative outlooks? So to understand the impact of new media in positive and negative, we have to understand that internet is a platform where everyone is a publisher, a librarian. Everyone can produce and retrieve an amount of information. The gatekeeping and agenda setting functions of the traditional media establishment are not found here, but are bypassed in favor of search engines. So when you put in a search engines, they don't have a gatekeeping and agenda setting. So if you put one similar words, the algorithm searches and gives you tons of information and loads of information. So what this ideally means is that any person with internet access can gain information about any issue, event, or place without the restriction of time, expense, geography, and politics that are used to limit the information gathering. By chatting with strangers in chat rooms and reading international newspapers online, we believe that it is something where we are learning about foreign cultures, perspective, and their perspective directly from the sources. What is new is that young people today are happy to decide is what is credible or worthwhile and what is not. So you are able to differentiate. And if you have a media literacy, then you are gem in understanding what is the flow of information. So The old media model, if you look into, is something where it has a source of truth, the credibility and the source of information. The new media model goes by the multiple source of truth and the power to sort it, and rest it's left to the individual. So the mass media can no longer look at captive audiences, and as mass media consumers are totally unique, demanding, and needs a different kind of engagement. So this is how we see the positive effect. This has profound implication for traditional business models in the media industries, which are aggregating large passive audience and holding them captive during the advertising interruptions. In the new media era, audiences will closely and occasionally be large, but in small, usually they are too tiny. The internet does provide an ample opportunity to gain knowledge about far off place, offers a means of interacting across the geographical areas. So thus we see that, in this sense, it is an internet is a new media is an ideal medium of establishing the sort of cyber peace. It is the peace that we have to be maintained, that is so earnestly desired. By personalizing new portals, web search guides, the user is able to completely isolate from issues that require knowledge and experience. There is loss of personal one-to-one interaction with real-time voice calls being replaced by multimedia messages. Real-time video calls are empowering people to not only talk to each other while on the move also, but also see that each other means are through the facial expression and mannerism also are being connected well. So camera phones and recorders help the users, but at the same time abuse the technology by taking away the privacy rights, allow the moral users an opportunity to capture special movement. The convergence of mobile phones enable greater freedom for the user as they can access their mails and video conferences without being chained to the office by making them. So the online technology, what we are using is also one kind of an technological updation that we see that, it has helped us and empowered us to get interacted without losing your academic period. So thus we see that there is definitely an positive, there are the two sides of a coin. There's a positive side and the negative side. How best you can use depends upon the users. So this is all about the new media and the technologies. Then we have block 5, where it is talking about, you have any doubts in the previous chapter?
Oh, ma'am, that's okay.
Yeah. So we have a block 5. Now we are ending towards the session. So we will start this chapter in the next session, where we have 3 chapters: application of media literacy in various fields, and also talking about the developing media literacy and media influence and dependency and democracy in society. Good issues to be dealt with. So we will talk about this in the next chapter. Yeah.
Okay, madam.
Okay, madam.
Yeah.
Madam, good afternoon, Parveen Sultan, madam.
Yeah. Srinivas, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Hope
madam, how are you, madam?
Fine. Yeah. Seems to be you have joined late.
Yes, madam. Just 5 minutes late, madam. But we are trying to attend more participants, but they are so many are not interested, madam. Only Shiva Kumar, late class, only Shiva Kumar and me are attending.
Yeah, I understand. See, because that is what we are trying to understand through this media literacy, that, what is that content of generation that can help them to grab the attention towards the online studies.
Exactly.
Yeah, online studies. And see, because we all are grown up, the rate of retention is very low. Whereas for the school children, it is more. So that is why, any video more than 8 to 15 minutes cannot have any retention. So this class of 40 minutes is also too large. If we have a class of 15 minutes, if we have a class of 10 to 15 minutes, I think we will have more number of participants, because it will help you to stay focused. These are all the technological, advancements and the areas of concern where we have to gradually build our, support system, so that, it becomes more interesting and more people come and interact so much. If you see,
we are having interest, but classes are continuous, no, regular, continuous till 5:30, no, madam. That is the problem.
Yeah, and online is too difficult also. Continuously having online
continuous classes, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
because that screen retention is too difficult to be retained more than 6 minutes to 10 minutes. So yes, that's why. Anyhow, we are at the end of next week. We will be ending.
Next week, next Sunday is last class, I think.
Yes, yes, yes. So you will be done with your course.
Yes,
Then
ma'am.
you'll
We have
be
to write
prepared for the
assignment. We have
exam.
to start our assignments and then exams, last exams for fourth
Yeah,
semester.
yeah. So if you have any doubt or anything, please let me know. So we will continue this irrespective of the students participants or not. We have to complete our syllabus.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
by next week we'll complete the other 3 chapters and we'll wind up the course. So in meantime,
Okay.
if you have any queries or any doubts, please let me know. I'll see how best I can help to resolve it.
Okay, madam. Thank you very
Oh,
much, madam.
thank you. Thank you. So it's the time up now. Shall I end the class?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay,
hope to
madam.
see you in the next session on time.
Sure, madam.
Hopefully.
Sure.
Bye bye. Yeah. Good
Bye.
day.
Bye. Shiva, bye.